Hello, and welcome. On this podcast, we talk about the paranormal and occult topics that may scare and frighten some. We may also talk about religious content and violence, so if you are faint of heart, this podcast may not be for you. Thank you for listening, and prepare to dive into the abyss with us. But don't look too hard, or you may find it staring back.
Good evening, and welcome to the Nightstalker Podcast. I am the Nightstalker.
And I am the Professor.
And we got a guest with us today,
Hey,
Smokey.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Alright, so, getting close to December 25th.
Mm-hmm.
Holidays, you know.
Holiday season, everyone's busy.
Everyone says it's the most wonderful time of the year.
Right.
But, we're going to talk, obviously, about Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Christmas scene.
Yeah, the Christmas scene, you know what I mean. Fat men on roofs, you know. Home invasion. No.
Home invasions, deities.
Before we start, though, we're going to be really talking about where Christmas came from. And whether you're a non-believer or you're a Christian, what we'll be talking about could be something you didn't really know before. And I'm not going to say it's upsetting, but it's definitely not what you think it might be. So I just kind of want to give a fair warning out there that this is what we're going to be talking about.
Quick trigger warning.
Yeah, hashtag triggered, you know. So, I just wanted to throw that warning out there. We're going to get into, just its origins, the pagan roots it comes from, and yeah. So, just want to give the good heads up, and I guess let's just dive right into it, shall we?
Let's do it.
Dive on in.
So, Christmas has been celebrated even long before Jesus Christ. Everyone always thinks, oh, Christmas, it's Jesus' birthday. Which, even in the Bible, they never really state when Jesus' birthday is. I think people have said it's around September.
Spring, isn't it? Or in the fall, I mean,
yeah. Yeah. You're probably thinking resurrection for spring. Yeah, people think that maybe in September or just in the fall time, but there's no real way to date it when he was born. He could have been born summer, winter, fall, you name it. There's no way to tell. Christmas, though, has pagan roots going all the way back to Nimrod. Nimrod was the son of Cush. And Cush and his father were ancient Babylonians who pretty much were set on defying God. This is where the Tower of Babel comes from, and they outright wanted to defy God.
Back before, the Tower of Babel was an ancient structure that man built in order to reach the heavens. And back then, everyone spoke the same language. And as the story in the Bible goes, the Tower of Babel was struck down by God, and he forced everyone to not understand each other. That's how languages were made. And then he scattered the people of Babel around the world.
Exactly, yeah. They even say Nimrod, under his rule, it was almost like the first real one world order, in the sense of, everything was controlled by him. He said that he was God, they all spoke one language, and they only had one religion, seeing him as God. Eventually, he was killed by his uncle, because his uncle, being believing in God, was like, what you've done is wrong, so he ended up killing him. Now, his mother, Semiramis, was Cush's first wife and was Nimrod's mom. Well, after Cush had passed away and Nimrod was in control, to keep power, she married her son. It's Alabama 100.
It was probably more common back then because,
Definitely.
Just weird marital things, I guess.
It's interesting when you
Weird
look.
incest stuff.
It's kind of interesting when you look at the Old Testament, because obviously in the New Testament now, if you're a Christian, pretty much if you want to get married, that's when you can do stuff, with your partner. If you're not married, you're not supposed to do anything sexual. You're supposed to flee from sexual sin, because that is just temptation of man. But if you're married, it's all good. In the Old Testament, they used to have concubines. You could be married and have concubines. And I think the reason being, everyone kind of debated, well, why would that be allowed? I think it was because population was so much smaller out there, it was more of a way to get the population going. But that's the old ways. We're in the new ways now. So, if you're not married, you shouldn't be doing anything, technically. Technically. I'm not going to tell people how to live their lifestyles. Smokey. No, I'm kidding. Back on track, though. So, after Nimrod died, Semiramis was kind of freaking out that she probably would lose power.
Wait, let's make a little clarification here.
Mm-hmm.
Her name is Semiramis.
Wait. Am I saying it wrong?
Yes, you are.
Like everything else
like
I
everything
say.
else.
Last episode was like fraternity. No, I can't. Fertility. There we go. His speech is not 100 on me. Okay.
Jeez. Spatial skills at 90.
How do you pronounce your name, Professor?
Like Semi, and then Ramis.
Semiramis.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so to not lose power, she was pregnant. I don't know if it's from Nimrod or she just got pregnant from someone else, but she was pregnant. So she told the people who were in dismay, being that Nimrod was dead, that Nimrod had ascended to the sun, and he was now their sun god, and that he should be worshipped as Baal, Baal. And that she was impregnated through his spirit from the sun's rays. And their son was named... Wait, how do you say his name again? Tammuz. So this is where... And he was born during the winter solstice, or December 25th, as recorded. So, really, December 25th is Tammuz's birthday. Not Jesus.
Before we move on, I'd like to talk about the importance of these winter solstice.
Of course, go for it.
To the pagan people. Because the winter solstice, as viewed by the pagans, was a very important time of the year, because that's when they saw the sun going down, as in it was, what's it called? That it was said to be dying.
Mm-hmm.
And after the solstice, as the days would start to become longer, they would view it as the sun being reborn. And the week-long festival, the festivals they have during the winter solstice would essentially celebrate the sun being reborn for another year. And that's where a lot of the sun gods and goddesses that they believed in, like Apollo, Mithra, Osiris, Ra, their birthdays were said to be on the 25th, a little bit after the winter solstice, because that's when the sun would be reborn.
Yeah. So
there's examples of these December 25th holidays throughout different...
Oh yeah, you can look up different gods' birthdays, and all of them that kind of relate to the sun all seem to be on December 25th. Ra, pretty much all the ones that Professor mentioned of. And I'll get more into what sun gods really mean, but pretty much, yeah, Tammuz was born on the 25th, and that was, his birthday, and that's where Christmas happens to fall upon. Another thing about Christmas and tradition is everyone has a Christmas tree, and when what's her name again? Semiramis?
Yeah.
Semiramis. She said that when Nimrod was ascended, his blood fell on the stump of an evergreen, and it grew into a tree. So they worship the evergreen tree as a sign of Tammuz being reborn, essentially as a sun god. That's what his importance was for them at the time. He was the son, in their eyes, the son of God. And, she had them believing that, he was going to, save them from the serpent, when really they were worshiping the serpent. Nimrod was probably the first recorded occult worshiper. I mean, in his time, they did human sacrifices. He was into any type of witchcraft. So he was like the real first occultic kind of worshiper. And if you find anyone who specializes in occult history, or someone who might be an occult practitioner, which I recommend staying away from, they'll probably tell you, yeah, it all goes back to Nimrod.
Man.
So, I mean, a lot of people say, well, technically Cain is the first, occultic type of person, but there's so little known about Cain, I don't think it's really fair to say he's the first, but definitely with Nimrod, I mean, they were doing stuff in his time that was, occultic practices, like I said, sacrifices, and, I'm sure just all the stuff they used to do.
All the stuff we don't do, so we don't know too much about.
Yeah, I'll be real honest with you, I ain't out here trying to get familiar with those occultic practices. And then they also talk about Christmas presents at one time were laid underneath these trees for the celebration of the sun god. So that's kind of where the idea of presents come from as well. So it all has this pagan root to it. Now I think the biggest thing people should take away is, they saw Nimrod as their sun god, and then all throughout history in different religions, there's always a sun god. I think everyone should know that Lucifer considers himself to be the sun god. So in all these other religions, when they have a sun god, it all really ties to Lucifer. I mean, everyone knows of the Eye of Horus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the occultic practices, they have the eye, usually in a triangle, and that's called the Eye of Lucifer. Or I think they might even call it the Eye of the Sun God. So, in a way, it's like anything having to do with sun worship, like whether people are going to these winter solstices or, any type of solstice or anything revolving around sun worship, is pretty much worshiping Lucifer. Yeah, of course. So I just wanted to throw that out there. It's, yeah, I mean, in a way it kind of sucks that a time of the year that you think you can spend with family and, worship the Lord, you kind of realize it has a meaning to it that you didn't think of before, and it's hard to say it's not right, but in a way it's not. If you really read the Bible, it's not the way Jesus would want you to worship his name. Now, if you're a non-believer listening to this, or if you're a believer listening to this,
Load your soul at your own risk.
Pretty much. I mean, if you're a non-believer and you don't care to believe, then live your life the way you want to. And if you're a believer who's just trying to get better at believing or worshiping, all I would have to say is you can believe in the Lord and just celebrate his name every day. I mean, when you wake up in the morning, you're going, maybe you're getting ready for work, just say to yourself, say a quick prayer, like, all right, Lord, let's go out there, let's have a good day, Maybe you're having your dinner, you thank him for the day you had, Not every day is a bad day if you're worshiping and believing, A lot of people would say that the Lord gives you the strength to get through the bad days, So I would say for those who might go, well, hey, I'm a believer, but I don't want to do something pagan. But at the same time, I used to, we used to as a family, would have Christmas and this and that. Like, what do we do? I would say have Christmas every day. Not in the sense of, gifts or anything like that, but worship the Lord every day. be happy that you know the truth and that you can worship him and, you know, pray to him and
Give thanks.
Yeah, give thanks. You know? I mean, there's nothing, even though the 25th is just another day, doesn't mean you still can't meet with family and have fun. Whether you play board games or you go out, you know, to a restaurant, you know, you can still be thankful and with your family. Just because you're taking the tree away and the gifts away doesn't mean that the core value of giving thanks to the Lord and being with your family doesn't have to be there. And even for the gifts, you know, there's nothing wrong with presenting a gift to anyone. It's not like, oh, you're never supposed to give someone a gift, that's bad. You can give people gifts. But, like, you know, instead of maybe giving it on Christmas as, like, here's your Christmas present, maybe, like, around December time, give them a gift on a day they're not expecting. You know, let's say you have a couple siblings. Give, like, on a Monday, you give your sibling this gift, and you just thank them for, you know, everything they've done for you and being your sibling, you love them. And maybe a few days later, give a gift to your other sibling, you know? You can still give gifts, and, you know, that. You just don't celebrate it in the pagan way of Christmas, you know? Make it more meaningful. I mean, that's really all I have to say. It's pretty cut and dry, you know, in terms of Christmas and its history. I'm sure there's more out there because I know we didn't talk about Santa Claus. Mm-hmm. And I mean, apparently there's Santa Clauses in many cultures, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, someone pointed out to me recently, if you just rearrange Santa, you get Satan. It's like an anagram, you know? I don't know if Claus has an anagram for anything, but like, but yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say in terms of Christmas and, like, its meaning, its roots. You know, how about you, Professor? You got anything you want to add?
Nothing about, like, the meaning and roots, but I really wanted to go back to the whole Tower of Babel.
Yeah, go for it.
So the Tower of Babel, in the Bible, is said to be this massive structure, this civilization where everyone spoke the same language, everyone understood and communicated with each other. But there are also other cultures in the world that have similar stories to the Tower of Babel. So when I was doing my research on this topic, there's mentions in Mexico of the ancient Toltecs that they erected a tall zacuali or tower to preserve themselves in the event of a second deluge. And the Tower of Babel was built, I think, after the time of Noah, was it?
So. Yeah, it was after Noah, because I do think Nimrod, Cush, and who's Cush's? I think his name's like Ham. I'm not joking. I think it's literally Ham. I feel like Ham is like not a son, but like within a close family tree of Noah, and Ham was the one who was like, I want to disobey God, and that's where Cush followed his father, and then Nimrod followed his father.
So the ancient Mexicans wrote about how when the light of the sun first appeared on the land, giants appeared off in search of the sun. And when they couldn't find it on Earth, they decided to build a tower in order to try to reach the sky. And it angered the god of the heavens and destroyed the tower in which they built and scattered its inhabitants. That's a kind of scary parallel to the Tower of Babel, considering Mexico is on the complete opposite side of the world from the Fertile Crescent of the Euphrates and Tigris rivers.
Yeah. Also, you said the giants were looking for the sun, right? So, giants are mentioned in the Bible. I know a lot of people might be going, oh, you're talking about David and Goliath. Goliath was described as a giant. Well, one of the ancient sea scrolls, known as the Book of Enoch, you can buy it separately, or you can get Bibles with it included, talks about giants and where they came from. There was a group known as the Watchers who watched the earth, and they saw the daughters of men and were pretty much just like, hey, we want to get at that. So they said, let us be cursed. And they came down, breeded with the daughters of men, and that's where the Nephilim came from. And these Nephilim were giants. And I'm not talking like 15 feet tall giants, which there are. I'm talking some of them were like titans, like 300 feet tall. And this is what led to the flood, because God had to cleanse the earth. Because at that time, everything was getting tainted by these watchers and fallen angels. They were breeding with anything and everything. There's a story I read, or I was told about in the book of Jasper, where there was this guy watching his herd of donkeys, and these humanoid bodies with like heads of lions and other animals ran out of the forest, hopped on the donkeys, and took off. And the guy was just kind of standing there like, what the heck did I just watch? But, yeah, so that was kind of what the point of the flood was. God was like, I have to cleanse this earth, and Noah's bloodline wasn't tainted with any of these bad things. So that's why Noah was chosen. Like, you gotta, survive, because your bloodline's still, like, human. So I just think that was interesting that you said these giants were looking for the sun, because obviously, like I said, the sun represents Lucifer, and these giants are, half fallen angel, half human. So I just find that really interesting.
Yeah, the world has really scary ways to correlate with each other.
It really does.
There's also another story attributed to the Tohono O'odham people, the ancient Arizonians, I guess.
Oh.
So they said that. Hold on. Yeah, they said that Montezuma. I don't know who that is, but I guess it's one of the people in their culture stories, that he escaped a great flood and then became wicked and attempted to build a house reaching the heavens, but the Great Spirit destroyed it with thunderbolts. So that's another story that is similar to the Tower of Babel, and it's located on the opposite side of the world.
It's funny hearing about these stories and how they wanted to build something to go to the heavens, because people would think to themselves, why did they, if they didn't believe in, with the Tower of Babel especially, it's like they didn't want to believe in God. Why were they building something to go to the heavens?
Reaching God,
yeah. It's like they wanted to go up there to declare war on God, almost. And, put on your tinfoil hats, because a lot of people are going, it's just conspiracy. All fronts. In the 50s, there was a project, which is escaping me right now, but pretty much us, and I think the Russians included, were trying to bomb. So people think it's funny, but we were trying to bomb the sky. It's like we were throwing bombs up into our atmosphere.
Trying to change the weather and stuff.
Well, that's what people kind of debate on what they were doing, because if you believe in the firmament, which a lot of people who believe in flat earth theory believe, it's this, you have the world, and then you have you have this thing that encapsulates the sky, and above the sky would be water. That's why it's blue. This is just their theory. People were saying that they were trying to bomb the firmament, and people would be like, well, why would they want to do that? Even if it's true, why do it? Would it be to break into the heavens? So it's kind of interesting how it's almost like history has a weird way of repeating itself.
Don't worry, we'll have an episode on world theory another week.
Yeah, we'll do that another time. We'll also get on conspiracy theories, what might be true, what's kind of out there, what's definitely true.
What's definitely true.
And for people out there listening, there's warfare going on all fronts. Not just like in the sense of nation against nation, but cultural war, class warfare, spiritual warfare,
modern warfare.
Modern warfare. EA Sports. It's in the game. So we live in a definitely interesting time where I feel like a lot of truths that people might not want to believe, or maybe just chose to ignore, is coming to light. And I feel like we'll reach a crescendo where people will want to decide what side they want to be on. And I'm talking in a lot of different fronts. I'm not talking about like just black and white, good and evil. I mean, like, we're talking within our cultures, within our countries, within what we like to do in pop culture. You know, I feel like a lot of
Family structure.
I mean, family structure's already been under attack for years now. You know, I'm not going to get into political stuff or cultural Marxism, but the family structure has been attacked for many years now. But it's just interesting. The times we live in are definitely interesting. So, you know, I feel like the best thing you can do is just keep your mind open and don't fall into bad habits. You got anything else to say about Tower of Babel or anything?
Nope, that's it. That's basically all I got.
How about you, Smokey? You got any thoughts or anything on?
Shoot, I'm good.
Good.
Yeah.
How about Professor? We have any questions that were asked via social media?
Let me check.
Okay. And in this time, I like to thank our sponsors. We don't have any yet, but if we
Skillshare, Dollar Shave Club, Raid Shadow Legends.
You feel me? Throw your boy some bucks.
I mean, come on, we're open to get a sponsorship going.
Mm-hmm.
We can use a few more mics.
Unfortunately, no questions this week.
Alright, well, I'd like to remind everyone out there that you can reach us via our email. Is it the Nightstalker Podcast or Nightstalker? Okay,
The Nightstalker Podcast.
The Nightstalker Podcast at Gmail. You can always email us questions, or if you have your own stories, both paranormal or supernatural, we'll read them on the show. We do have an Instagram and a Twitter. So if you ever want to shoot us a comment or, look for any updates, we try to post there regularly. And I think that's just about to do it for the show, guys.
Yeah, it was a short episode this week.
Yeah, I think it was just to the point. We don't want to overbloat ourselves talking about nonsense. Mm-hmm. We just want to give the facts straight, So with that, we'll catch you guys on the next week. This has been the Nightstalker, and good night. And good luck.